As the death toll is rising in the aftermath of Hurricane Ian, the partisan media, of course, is finding ways to politicize what happened and to try to gain political points by attacking the other side. There may be no bigger battleground for them than climate change. Are hurricanes like Ian a direct result of a changing climate, as so many on, for example, MSNBC and CNN insist, is a fact? Or does climate change have no proven impact on hurricanes at all, as many on Fox and the right-leaning media claim? Well, like so many things, the truth lies somewhere in between. And unlike the others, we want you to have the facts without the partisan spin. Now, if you listen to Fox, it seems pretty cut and dry. There's no proof of a connection to climate change.
You hear this all the time, and it's a way of terrifying you into handing politicians more power over your life. But the fact is, it's a lie. It's not even remotely true. I mean, it's not a close call. There has been, as a factual matter, no increase in hurricane frequency in the continental United States from 1900 to 2020.
There have been 6 major storms in Florida in the last 57 years. The 50 years before that, there were 16. So can we throw the climate change out the window now and get back to facts?
Change the channel over to MSNBC or CNN, and it is a completely different story.
We're seeing the effects and impacts of climate change, making these hurricanes, tornadoes, whatever they might be, much worse, and therefore the effect a lot worse.
Listen, I'm just trying to get that. You said you want to talk about climate change, but what effect does climate change have on this phenomenon that is happening now? Because it seems these storms are intensifying. That's the question here.
I don't think you can link climate change to any one event.
Okay.
On the whole, on the cumulative, climate change may be making storms worse, but to link it to any one event, I would caution against that.
Okay, well, listen, I grew up there, and these storms are intensifying. Something is causing them to intensify.
All right, it turns out neither political extreme has it exactly right. It's true. Hurricane damage has increased in the last 30 years. Part of the reason for this is that wealthier people move to the coastlines, they build big houses, and intensifies the damage when these storms hit. The population of hard-hit Fort Myers has grown 24% just since 2010. It's also true the number of hurricanes have been declining worldwide in the last 30 years. But it's also true that climate change is real. And in the past 3 decades, hurricanes have become more severe as they approach land, a result of rising sea levels and its ability to hold moisture. Fair-minded climatologists will tell you it's hard to nail down the precise impact of climate change on the hurricanes we see today. A paper published in the Bulletin of the American Meteorological Society in 2019 left no clear yes or no answer about how much human-caused climate change affects hurricane frequency and intensity. What the scientists do say is that hurricanes happen for a variety of reasons, and none of them will ever be caused by just one thing. Now, while many of these elements that cause a hurricane may be affected by climate change, the storms themselves are complex, and the verdict on exactly what causes them is still out among the scientific community. I get that that is not a particularly satisfying answer for a polarized media desperately looking for villains and outrage. But it's also the truth, and that's what we peddle in here. So joining us now is Kerry Emanuel, professor of atmospheric science at MIT. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. So let's start with the basics. What do we know about the impact that climate change, what do we know about the impact that climate change is having on hurricanes?
Well, there's been an emerging scientific consensus among those who seriously study this problem that as the world warms, we should see a greater fraction of very high category storms relative to, say, category 1s and 2s, and we're beginning to see that in the data. And we should see higher rates of intensification of tropical cyclones, and we're seeing that in the data. And these storms should produce more rain. And I should add that although we like to think of hurricanes as windstorms, and of course they are that, by and large, it's the water that's the problem. It kills the most people, causes the most damage. So the increase in rain, and because the storms are getting more intense, the increase in storm surge is a real problem.
Now, you heard references there, a number of them, to the fact that there have been fewer hurricanes in the last 20 or 30 years. Is that true?
Well, when you look at the global record, you really don't see a trend at all. If you start nitpicking, go down to smaller and smaller scales, you can find places where they've gone up, find places where they've gone down. So if you're on the political spectrum, you always can sort of cherry pick the data and find what you want. They have been going up in the Atlantic as a whole since the 1980s, and it's very hard to go back much further than that with the data. But we think a lot of the increase in the Atlantic is driven by other climate factors, some of which are man-made but don't have all that much to do with greenhouse gases. It's like any other sort of scientific problem. It's actually fascinating when you get into it. There are a lot of different factors, as you mentioned, that go into this. But we do see, when we look at this global set of storms, we do see an effect of greenhouse gas type warming on some aspects of hurricanes. I want to emphasize there are other aspects, like the overall frequency, which are dominated by the weaker but more numerous storms. We don't really know where that's going, and models and theory are not really decided on that.
So some aspects of this, meaning how often hurricanes occur, may not be associated with any sort of climate change. So let me ask you specifically about Hurricane Ian. Can we take a hurricane like this one and say this was more ferocious because of climate change?
Well, I don't like to do that. I have colleagues who seem to have found a way to do that, but I sort of liken it to this analogy. We know for a fact that if you smoke a lot of cigarettes, you're increasing the probability that you're going to get lung cancer. I don't think anyone disputes that anymore. But then if you ask me, well, your grandmother smoked 2 packs a day and she got cancer in her 70s, how much of her cancer was caused by smoking? Who would like to field a question like that? It doesn't sound like it makes a lot of sense, and I wouldn't ever phrase it that way. Whereas you could say, how much more likely was it that your grandmother got cancer because she smoked? That's a sensible question. That's the kind of way I like to phrase the question of how climate change affects any particular phenomenon.
But what do you say to those who say that there really isn't any evidence at this point that climate change is impacting specifically how ferocious a storm is? Meaning, put aside financial damage, right, which you can attribute to other factors, et cetera.
Yes,
but
indeed.
What do you say to that specific question?
Well, there's plenty of evidence, again, that if you look at a large set of storms, you're seeing the effect of climate change. It's just very, very hard to pin any particular event. That's true of anything. It's true of cigarettes and lung cancer. It's just the way it is. Yeah. All
right. Well, that makes sense. Kerry Emanuel, thank you so much for coming on the program. This is a very important discussion, and it's important to provide some sober perspective. Appreciate it.
A pleasure.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.